Welcome to lesson 2 of this new features for 19C high availability, and we're looking at ASM and ACFS new features in this lesson. So after completing this lesson, you should be able to describe the benefits of automatic block corruption recovery, describe the Oracle ACFS replication improvements, and also demonstrate how to use Oracle ACFS Online FSEK. So first of all, let's look at some server control command enhancements for ASM. Now this is particularly for Flex ASM, which uses an ASM network. Now when Flex ASM first appeared in 12.1 and later versions as well, we used OIF CFG to configure the ASM network. Now we can use server control, and we've got server control modify here, but with server control add and server control delete the ASM network. What's new in 19C is this option dep type, which is dependency type. So you can run the server control modify ASM network command with the -dep type option to specify the dependency type, mandatory or optional for an Oracle ASM network. What does this dependency type mean? Well, if you only have one ASM network, then if that breaks, disappears, then you are in big trouble. And this means it's mandatory that that ASM network is there. If you have more than one, if one of those ASM network disappears, then you can still function. So this would be an optional ASM network. So this -dep type option enables you to determine or flag whether or not you want to tolerate the unavailability of any network. If you have only the one Oracle ASM network connection between the cluster nodes and the Oracle ASM client clusters, then the network should be specified as mandatory. So we are setting ASM network net number 2 as a mandatory network. We cannot tolerate the failure of this network. If there are multiple Oracle ASM networks that only connect the cluster nodes, then you can specify them as optional to tolerate the failure of one of the networks. So here, net number 2 is being set as optional. Now, flushing the password file metadata. Now, in Oracle 12.1, we introduced the ability to have the password file not in Oracle Home DBS anymore or database on Windows. You could actually store it on ASM. In a disk group. Now this gave us a slight issue that if you have physically moved the password file to a new location, sometimes it could take a while for the database to realize, and you could get people failing to log in or failing to update the password file correctly. So changes to the location of the password file can be introduced by running Aura pwd, or pw copy, pw create, pw delete, pw move, or pw set inside ASM CMD. Now, after this change has been made, to make sure you don't have any discrepancies taking place, after you've changed the location or actually the name of the password file as well, you can issue the following SQL command to flush the password file metadata cache, which means next time we need it, we have to read it afresh from the new location. So alter system flush password file metadata cache. This is for both ASM and database instances. It just gets rid of the old password file information and updates and reloads the new ones. You can look inside the $$ password file info view to find out if it does reflect the current file location. So if it does not show the current file location after a change, you can flush the password file metadata cache to force a refresh of this password file location. We've got some other changes to do with password files later on in this lesson. Now, automatic block corruption recovery. Now, this is not a new functionality, but what we have changed is the default options on it. If you've got the content check attribute set to enabled, this Well, if you have the attribute enabled, it disables content checking when performing data relocation operations for a disk group. So if it's set to true or enabled, ASM detects corruptions during a data copy operation. This could be a rebalancing or a remirroring or a resilvering, and performs an automatic block corruption recovery by replacing the corrupted blocks with an uncorrupted mirror copy. Now, the content check disk group attributes traditionally has defaulted to false, and it's been around since 11G. But in 19C, it's now defaults to true for Oracle ASM 19C on engineered systems and also on cloud environments. The attribute can only be set when altering a disk group. So it's an alter disk group command that allows you to set this attribute. Now, there's a new set parse parent command inside ASM CMD. Now, this is to do with sparse files, which are used to hold changed or new blocks when you're doing database clones. Sparse files can only be held in sparse disk groups. And this new command, set sparse parent command, sets the parent of a sparse child file. So you can set a parent file in a disk group to a sparse file in this sparse disk group. So here we are inside ASM CMD. We're setting the sparse parent. So this is the child file and this is the parent file. And you'll get the command, the output will tell you that it's setting the parent of this child file to be that parent file. This is for an individual file. You can also do it for a number of files at the same time. So set a parent file in the disk group to multiple sparse files in the sparse disk group. Here we have again the set sparse parent file, but we've got 3 child files this time. So child 1A, 1B, and we've also got a 1C. And here we have the parent file. So setting parent of these 3 child files to be that parent file there. We also have another new ASM CMD command, a move file. This move file command moves a file to a specified file group in the same disk group where the file is stored. Now, file groups were introduced in 12CR2. Traditionally, the redundancy of files inside a disk group are set at the disk group level. The introduction of file groups inside the disk groups allow us to fine-grain those redundancy settings a bit more. So a file group would be a group of files that have the same availability options, the same configuration, if you like. These individual file groups are mapped to an individual database, be it a CDB or a PDB. There will come a time when you may want to move a file out of a current file group into a new file group, and the move file command allows us to do this. So we've got examples below of a current control file and flashback log. So here we are moving a control file to a new file group called FG1. And we can tell by the directory here, this seems to be a flashback log. We're moving this flashback log to a new file group. Let's look at the password file again in the pwcreate ASM CMD command. Now, pwcreate ASM CMD command had a mandatory option of password, and you actually had to specify what the sys password would be when you actually use pwcreate on the command line. Now, people didn't really like this because it could be embedded in the command history. So it's now optional to actually put the password in the command line. You will be prompted to provide it instead. There are a couple of new options though for the ASM CMD pwcreate command. The -F option forces the deletion of the existing password file and creates a new password file for you. And the format, well, we have 2 current formats for the password file that we support, 12 and 12.2. If you don't specify the format option, you will get a 12.2 password file. But if you want to use a 12 password file, you need to specify format and specify that you want 12, version 12 of it. So here we've got pwcreate. It's for the database ORCL, and the location of the password file will be the plus data disk group, the ORCL database, or a PWDB. Returning to file groups, so Oracle ASM file group properties, parity protection files. Now, since ASM was first introduced in Oracle 10 or 10G, we've had 3 levels of redundancy. We've had high, which is 3-way mirroring, normal, which is 2-way mirroring, and then we've got external, which means ASM is not doing any mirroring, that we assume your hardware is providing the mirroring instead. We're now introducing a new level of redundancy, parity. Now, this is only available at the file group level. It's only available if you've got 3 failure groups inside the disk group that file group belongs to. And the redundancy file type property specifies redundancy, as I say, for that individual file group. It's meant only for files that are write once. So things like archive logs and backup sets, where we only write to them once and never again. So to reduce the overhead of data protection associated with Oracle ASM, we've got single parity protection is provided if you're using flex disk groups and the file groups inside them. The parity value specifies single parity for redundancy. The parity setting is intended for write once files such as archive logs and backup sets. So how do we set it? Well, we use an alter disk group command, so it's disk group 2. We're modifying the file group called file group PDB1, and we're setting the archive log redundancy to be parity. Parity redundancy is restricted to data not requiring ongoing updating to reduce the execution impact with parity protection. So that includes where we don't support parity protection for data files or control files. And that's the end of part 1 of this lesson, and part 2 we'll look at ACFS. Welcome back to part 2 of our 19C new features for ASM and ACFS, and we're looking in this part 2 particularly at ACFS. And first of all, we have a few new functionalities for ACFS util command, and the first one is the ftrace option. So Oracle ACFS util info ftrace command displays the trace entries for open files associated with the ACFS file system specified by the mount point. So it could be that you're trying to dismount this file system, but you can't, so you're trying to find out which files are open and therefore stopping the dismount of the file system. The Oracle ACFS kernel driver keeps track of which files are loaded in memory. These files may not have an active open and may just be cached. So nobody could be reading the files at the time, but they could just be cached inside memory. The open file tracing is able to determine which of those cached file control blocks have an active open or reference. The command allows you to determine if and which files are still being referenced that could prevent a file system unmounting from occurring. So in this case, we are looking in particularly at the /MNT file system. So ACFS util info ftrace MNT will give us information about which files are open. Well, we can see which files are open and which process have them. Lookup means that this file was found using a full path name, and the map here indicates that this particular process mapped this file into memory. ACFS util lock stats command. This displays lock contention statistics for cluster-wide diagnostics. The command below displays only the top 10 lock statistics, so T10 here. And we have details of what type of lock it is, so different classification of locks. We have how many times that lock has been acquired, or that type of lock has been acquired, the max weight for that particular lock, and the total cumulative weight for that particular type of lock as well. Some other ACFS util enhancements, we have the ACFS util meta command. This operates as a metadata collector to partially copy an Oracle ACFS file system into a separate specified record-oriented output file. Now, the ACFS util meta command using the -G option collects only the known good metadata. Now, this command, ACFS util meta, can often be used to try to find out if there is any corrupted blocks inside your file system. Now, it can take quite a while to run through. If you have the -G option, it only collects the known good metadata, which is useless if you're actually trying to find out if there is any corrupted metadata inside there, but it can speed things up otherwise. We have ACF util info file command. Now, this displays information about a file inside an ACFS file system, including things like the extent map. So what blocks or AUs make up this particular file, or where the file, I should say, is located on the different ASM disks. We also have a new option, -M here. ACFS util info file command, used with the -M option, displays details about the file metadata extents as well. So ACFS util info file -U -M, it will tell us the location of the metadata extents for that particular snapshot file. Now, using FSCK, well, I call it FSCK. I know other people say FISC, but I was trained many years ago to call it FSCK. Now, running an FSCK command in Linux on ACFS offline has been supported for a while, but online support of FSCK is new inside 19C. So you can now conduct an online analysis of the file system without downtime and performing checks of an ACFS file system without dismounting the file system using online FSCK. When it's run online and mounted file system, it initially creates a point-in-time snapshot of the file system metadata. And it's this point-in-time snapshot of the metadata that we're actually running the FSCK on. So FSCK then executes the file system checks against this metadata snapshot. Because the file system is mounted and live, file system metadata can still be created or updated underneath the online FSCK. However, this new or updated metadata is not checked. We're actually checking the snapshot because the online FSCK checks only the initial metadata snapshot. FSCK online is supported only on Linux. Now, to make this snapshot of the metadata, or online FSCK utilizes a special file called a copy on write or COW file. While online FSCK is running and any file system metadata is updated, the original version of the metadata is copied to the COW file to preserve it for the file system checks. So we're always running the FSCK over the initial metadata. The COW file helps preserve the metadata snapshot that's checked by the online FSCK. If the COW file runs out of space while preserving copies of metadata, then the online FSCK command will be forced to abort. So it's important to make sure you do have enough space. The appropriate size of the COW file depends on the amount of file system metadata that might change during the execution of the online FSCK, and this is largely workload dependent. Oracle recommends as a starting point that the size of the COW file should be about 5% of the file system that you're doing the online FSCK check on. This COW file must be placed in a separate Oracle ACFS file system. The COW file is temporary and will be deleted once the FSCK operation has completed. Other considerations for using this: another instance of online FSCK cannot be started within the same cluster. So you're only one running at any one time. If the ACFS file system containing the COW file is unmounted on any of the nodes, then that situation may cause the online FSCK to abort. Deleted snapshots within the file system do not have the storage freed into the completion of the online FSCK. Resizing the file system with ACFS util size is not allowed and will return an error. Automatic resizing is also not allowed until the online FSCK command completes. A freeze of the file system using ACFS util freeze will also cause FSCK to freeze, where it will wait for the freeze to end before it continues its checking. So how about the usage? Well, the following example shows how to check and repair a mounted Oracle ACFS file system. So we are using the operating system FSCK, but it's going to be a type ACFS. So that tells FSCK that this is an ACFS file system we are working with. Now, by default, FSCK only checks and reports problems. If you have the -A option specified, this will also attempt a repair of any problems it finds as well. The -O means this is an online check, and this is the name of the file system we are checking, and this is the name of the cow file, the copy on write file, and this is the size of the cow file as well there. Now, the file below, the command below, is an example of these options in a different order. So -O here to specify we want an online check. This is the name of the cow file, the size of the cow file, and then the name of the file system we want to check. Now, there's no -A in this second option, therefore it's not going to attempt any repairs, but this shows us that we can put the options in any order we want to. A couple of improvements for ACFS replication. The Oracle ACFS util REPL or REPL command can now be invoked as a non-root Oracle ASM admin user. The exception to this is the replication info -C-U command. Now, the remote option of ACFS util REPL terminate command can be used, well, traditionally if we use ACFS REPL terminate, we can terminate either the primary or the standby, and we would recommend you terminate replication in the primary first and then let anything that needs to replicate over to standby to do so before we terminate the standby. This new command, standby remote standby location, well, you actually put in the standby location, will actually do just that for us. It will terminate the primary replication and then followed by the standby replication being terminated. Deprecated or desupported features for ASM and ACFS. As we've already mentioned, the password option of the ASM CMD pwcreate command is no longer required. And starting with Oracle Database 19c, leaf nodes are desupported as part of the Oracle Flex cluster architecture. And to finish this lesson, we have a couple of quizzes here. So which of the following statements regarding automatic block corruption recovery are true? So first of all, A, the content check attribute enables or disables content checking when performing data relocation operations for a disk group. Yep, that's true. When enabled, B option, when enabled, ASM detects corruptions during the data copy operation and performs automatic block corruption recovery by replacing these corruptions with an uncorrupted mirror copy. Yep, that's true. C, the content check disk group attribute defaults to false in Oracle ASM 19c on engineered systems and cloud environments. Well, actually, no, it defaults to true. So C is incorrect. D, the attribute can only be set when altering the disk group. Yeah, that is correct. So A, B, and C are true. A, B, and D are true, and C is incorrect. Online FSCK utilizes a special file called copy on write or cow file. Yes, this is true. This is the snapshot of the metadata that we take at the beginning of the FSCK command. So in this lesson, you should have learnt how to describe the benefits of automatic block corruption recovery, describe Oracle ACFS replication improvements, and demonstrate how to use Oracle ACFS Online FSCK.